Thanks, Beverly, and thanks for the intro. Again, apologies to everybody for the slight technical blips, but these things are character building, and it's always good to kind of have technical issues at the start of a talk that will at points touch upon the risks of engaging with platforms that provide technical issues. So, as I say, very serendipitous, very, very convenient. You should all be able to see my screen right now. If you don't see a big black screen with Optimize Your Fundraising written on it, please do send a message in the chat and I will fix that. But from my side, it looks like all is sharing well. I will aim to finish in line with the normal time, so we won't overrun or have anything impacted on anybody's other calendars. But as Beverly says, this content will be shared afterwards, and if there's anything that needs any more attention, we are of course always here to talk to anybody about any support they may need. With their fundraising. Today, we're going to talk about optimizing fundraising. And this is going to be quite broad brush. The goal of this is to effectively make more money. And, it can't be simpler than that. What I want to do is first of all, introduce myself and my background, and then talk about the phases of this session, what we're going to focus on. My name is Owen, as Beverly introduced. I'm the country director at iRaiser for the UK and Ireland. Been working for about 15 years in digital fundraising, online marketing, and software. Aside from working with iRaiser, who are a tech provider providing donation and payment software, prior to that, I was with Shelter, the housing and homelessness charity, for 5 years. So I have experience in working with large organizations, but also I've been a trustee of a small organization in East London for a significant period of time as well. So I've had a broad range of experience from scraping the pennies together to being able to deal with big budgets. So hopefully that can be quite helpful in looking at this. I want to basically gear this talk to charities of all sizes. The principles and the tricks that we're going to go through are designed to be accessible at any level. So whether you're an individual volunteer dedicating a couple of days a month to fundraising, or whether you're an organization that has riches everywhere, you should be able to apply principles of strategy and product and support experience across all sizes of organization, and that's very, very much key. I want to start off by talking about strategy, though, as that's obviously very, very key to our way of thinking in the way we approach fundraising. This is strategy for organizations that are looking to fundraise for the first time in an online environment, but it's also a strategy for organizations that are very well developed and have had online fundraising activity for lots and lots of time, but maybe need to refresh and continue to make sure that their digital health is up to scratch and that things are running nice and smoothly for them as well. The strategy that I will take, the approach I take to digital fundraising is, again, scalable at any size. So the principles we talk about here apply to small organizations, medium organizations, big organizations, and anybody in between there. But the baseline principle is to understand and strategize your fundraising in a linear journey. So one of the key pitfalls people have when they engage in fundraising is working off data that is misleading, or working off an understanding of something that doesn't reflect the reality. What that leads to is bad decisions and owned knowledge that ultimately hinder an organization more than they help them. So I'm going to go through a process that I apply to organizations of all sizes that is designed to take one step that positively influences the next step along the way, up to a point of getting a really great fundraising message in front of a really captive audience. That is split into 5 sections. So as they say on your screen in front of you, understand, attributes, invest, audience, and stories are the key things. And I'm going to touch upon briefly what each of those mean. So first and foremost, one of the key questions we must all ask ourselves is what's currently happening. And this kind of seems obvious, but you'd be surprised how many organizations don't necessarily always have a look at their fundraising landscape and their supporter journeys, and work off assumptions rather than constant review. So taking a beat and undergoing exercises to understand what's going on is really, really important. Before somebody becomes a supporter, they go through four phases, and they're on your screen right now. So, really simply, there's a discovery phase where people learn about an organization for the very first time. They hear your name, that's it. There's a decision-making phase where people, for whatever reason, are influenced to decide that a cause is worth giving to. There's a delivery phase, which is the mechanism that takes somebody from their kitchen table where they like a charity's ideas into a position of being able to give. And there is a doing phase, which is the mechanism that converts somebody to a supporter. So if you think about it from the old charity shop way of looking at things, the discovery phase is the sign you have on the high street. The decision making phase is the messaging you put in your window. The delivery phase is literally having your door open so people can walk through it. And the doing phase is the till that you put the money into. And this type of, I guess, structure can be applied to all sorts of journeys. And it's really important for organizations to, whoops, it is, to undergo those journeys so that they can get an understanding of not just what they want to happen with a supporter, but also what is actually happening with a supporter as well. This one that I jumped onto is an exercise that I've done directly with a medical research charity that's based in the southeast. And this organization was tasked with literally just putting post-its on a mirror board to identify what different section of the economy of decision making their various touch points undergo. And this is really useful for a number of reasons. One is because it challenges assumptions. Fundraisers often think of, they dedicate their time to the things that are hardest for them, that take the most effort, or sometimes the kind of perfect donor mentality where they look at the things they enjoy doing most, the most important content, the most impactful content. And there's a lot of, I guess, focus on maybe fundraising in a way you want people to donate and not necessarily fundraising in a way that people do donate. And an exercise like this allows you to work out all the different permutations of various journeys to become a supporter. So all of these touch points are things that can be influenced, or sometimes things that can't be influenced, that may lead to a supporter making a donation. Not featured on this right now, but something I've done in the past when I worked for a housing and homelessness organization was a post-it with the word snow written on it. And people would often say, you can't influence the weather. And I would say, yes, but the weather influences us. If it snows, people look out the window and say, I would hate to be a rough sleeper tonight. As such, their propensity to donate to an organization dealing with homelessness is much higher. Therefore, as a fundraiser, I must think about asking people for money at a more intensive level based on that. And understanding the various psychology of decision making throughout that process is really, really important. What it allows you to do is kind of prioritize what's worth putting effort into and deprioritize things that aren't as particularly important. But also what's really important, if I can be all Confucius says about this, is that it lets fundraisers know where they can't control things. So there are elements here that are an ecosystem. Fundraisers will often talk about how they're spinning plates, and they get very worried about, spreading themselves very thin because they're spinning so many plates. Sometimes an exercise like this allows people to understand that they will benefit from influence in ways that they don't need to dedicate time to, and they can make assumptions about how certain elements of a journey work for them and empower them without needing to be something that drains your resources. And that's something that's really important as well. Not just to know what you do have to do, but also to know, where it's okay to step back and say, look, this is fine. We don't have to stress out about this. This will exist and we will be able to benefit from it. Like I said, when I'm putting snow on a post-it weather or on a post-it note for this type of activity, I don't control the weather. Trying to control the weather would be a futile task, but I can certainly, as a fundraiser, benefit from the different weather conditions that influence people's decision making. And you should be able to understand all of that environment and all of that ecosystem. And that's really, really important. What that understanding lets you do is make better decisions. And to make better decisions, you go get buy-in. So this type of exercise is obviously quite complex, and the level of understanding that a fundraiser will have about this type of network is quite deep. At some point, your CEO, your board of trustees, your supporters who read your annual report, your finance team who manage your budget, they don't have the time to understand the fundraising landscape in the same way that you do with the same level of complexity. So your challenge is to attribute that activity in such a way that allows you to consume to give it to these different people who can consume it in a way that they understand it. That's really, really important. That communication thing is really important. If your fundraising landscape is too complex to understand, then the board of trustees who empower you to do what you do won't be able to make good decisions when you ask them to do things. When you're looking for buy-in, if your board doesn't understand it, if your CEO doesn't understand it, if it's not reflected on your budget, you won't be able to do more of the good stuff, and you similarly won't be able to do less of the stuff that isn't working. And when you're talking about digital fundraising, you're talking about working in an ever-changing environment. The internet changes, and I'm going to go through some big change statistics as we get to the end of this. With those changes, we must be robust and we must constantly attribute that well so we can let the organizations we work with, whether we're volunteers, whether we're staff, whether we're trustees ourselves, must be able to have these organizations understand the need for change and give us that buy-in to use our expertise. It's all well and good being an expert in something, but if somebody doesn't know you're an expert, they won't let you go and do what you do best. Once that's happened, once you've got an understanding yourself and you've found a way to attribute it, then you can go into an investment phase. Now, investment doesn't always mean money. Not every organization has money to burn. Organizations of all sizes should be able to work with these type of strategies. Investment can mean money, it can mean people, it can mean resources, it can even mean you as an individual, your time. If I spend 50% of my day doing emails to supporters and I spend 50% of my day doing SMS messages to supporters, and I make £100 from the emails and I make £50 from the supporters, then I'm investing my time incorrectly. I should be doing 2/3 of the time at email and 1/3 at SMS, because that's the ratio of return I get from that. So even from, the way you spend the next hour, using an understanding of your landscape, having that buy-in from you, from your CEO and your board of trustees and everything else, that will allow you to invest the next hour of your work correctly. Obviously, if you're in a position of luxury where you've got loads of money to invest into ads, that's even more powerful. The level of opportunity in things like digital advertising is absolutely huge. Not for huge barriers to entry either. If you are in a position of luxury to be able to invest in that direction, this type of activity will massively empower and grow your revenue. And once you've invested, you can now start looking at an audience. So we started off by understanding who's giving to us, how people give to us at the moment. Now we're at the point of having that understanding, of understanding where we're good and where we're bad, and getting the buy-in from our board to be able to grow that. We can start asking ourselves who we ask for money next. Traditionally, when you did things like direct mail or TV ads or print or anything like that, you had to make decisions about your best performing demographic because it was really expensive to get an ask in front of somebody. When you talk about doing things online via social media, via email, via ads, via everything like that, it's really, really cheap to put an ask in front of somebody. You are putting a donate now button in front of somebody for less than a penny or even for free in some circumstances. As such, you shouldn't be automatically discrediting or discounting people who give to charity simply because they don't meet the ABC1 demographic targeting that you used to do 10 years ago. There's now an opportunity digitally to start with a much wider group. So I would say to every organization on the planet, or every organization in this country, your starting audience is everybody over the age of 18 with access to a payment method. That's where you start. Everybody. You can make some top line assumptions. So if you are at the Central Surrey Dog and Cats Home, you probably don't want to fundraise in Edinburgh because Edinburgh have a very big dog and cats home that's a very strong brand, so it won't be the most valuable thing in the world to go there. So super top lines can narrow down things a little bit, but generally speaking, your audience should be as broad as possible. You get asks in front of them and you learn whether they say yes or no. You continue to ask the people who say yes, and you put less effort into asking the people who say no. But actually working with real data is always going to be more valuable than working with assumptions. And you can create that profile of who is responding. And that's really, really important. As good as a fundraiser's instinct will be, a fundraiser's instinct will never be a fundraiser spreadsheet with actual data on it. And that's always really, really important to focus on. You're also able to ask better questions online. So if I send direct mail to somebody, I am at the behest of Royal Mail as to when that will be delivered, and I'm also, unable to predict when somebody will go home from work and pick up the post. I'm also unable to predict when somebody will actually decide to open that piece of direct mail. I certainly have emails from Thames Water, direct mail from Thames Water at the moment that I'm completely refusing to open. So there's always this level of loss of control when you work with things like mail as a channel. With digital, I can say exactly when I want somebody to view my ask. I can be very strategic in terms of when I post something, when I serve an ad, when I deliver an email. All of this is very plannable, and I can start to layer in not just who my supporter base are, but when they're likely to engage better with my ask. There are some people, I will say myself, right now I am a employee of a software company. I am a very good target for B2B sales for things like cybersecurity companies and stuff like that. And between the hours of 9 to 5, they will want to contact me. On From 5 p.m. on Friday until 6 p.m. on Sunday, I will not care whatsoever about these B2B sales companies, and I become a terrible audience member for them at those times. I become a much better audience member for Deliveroo between those times because I'm much more likely to order a pizza than buy some software. And that's something that we need to focus on when we think about asking people for a donation. People will respond differently to different messaging at different times. And with digital, I can turn around right now and I can say, I've got an email list of former supporters. I'm going to email half of them at 10 p.m. on a Tuesday morning and half of them at 5 p.m. on a Thursday afternoon. And I'm going to find out which one performs better. And that will tell me whether people are more responsive on a Tuesday or a Thursday during the daytime or in the evening time. And that is real data that guides how I fundraise more successfully and allows me to reach more audiences because I have more information. And that's super valuable. And once you've done that, you've understood your landscape, you've got the buy-in, you've invested resources effectively, and you've grown an audience, then you can tell some stories. So one of the biggest pitfalls that fundraisers have is producing wonderful stories about the amazing work that their organization does and then showing them to nobody. And you tend to get false avenues here where people will put out a piece of content, nobody will see it, or not enough people will see it, and then the narrative that gets built on that is that piece of content did not work. Well, that piece of content may have worked if people had actually read it. And this is why this strategy is linear. This is why this happens in processes, that you should get everything right before you start asking serious questions of stories about the vital work that you do. And, that is what fundraisers do best. They go out there and they tell beautiful stories. The more people they speak to and the right people they speak to, the more chance they have of getting donations and the more chance they have of understanding which stories work and what stories work to what groups. There is organizations that do a wide range of things, and if we're being perfectly honest with ourselves, lots of the things that some organizations do is boring, and some of the stuff that organizations do is fantastically interesting. That reality is important for fundraising because we need to understand what type of message is going to engage people and allow them to pay us the money to do all of those things. And this is why this comes last. And I know sometimes it's very tempting to say we should be led by our cause, and this is being cause led. Doing it last is allowing your cause to actually lead your fundraising strategy. I know it seems counterintuitive, but it's going to raise much more money. And don't wait with these things. You have to be disciplined, but getting them done as soon as possible is really, really powerful. That leads us on to kind of the next stage, which is a bit more technical in terms of its focus, and that's understanding product itself. So when you're looking at online fundraising, as we mentioned, with planning that journey and understanding that ecosystem, there are certain products you simply need to have if you're going to be successful with an online fundraising campaign. I have identified four things that are absolutely fundamental. They're your cornerstones of online fundraising. There are much more products out there. in the online space. There are lots of other flashy things, bells and whistles, luxuries, and all this. These are the four elements that are completely fundamental to having successful online fundraising, and I've listed them in order of priority. First and foremost, you must have a mechanism to take donations. If somebody sees something about you as an organization, they like what they do, what you do, you go to the website. If you can't give money right then, you are losing a potential lifetime supporter. It is a baseline expectation that if I go to a website, there'll be a button to donate and get involved. If that isn't there, that is a piece of goodwill that will never be recovered. And that's so fundamental. It's just a baseline expectation for everybody to be able to do that. The next phase in terms of in terms of online fundraising, the next phase of a journey is the peer-to-peer environment. So first and foremost, a member of the public wants to give you money. That's really important. The next thing somebody wants to do is raise money for you. So I'll make a donation to you. Next in the journey, I'm gonna run the marathon for you. I'm gonna host a pub quiz for you. I'm going to sit in a bathtub full of baked beans for you. And having a platform that allows people to do that is really, really important. This is a bit more diverse. You'll have platforms that you must, big branded platforms that you have to have accounts with. So everybody here, has to have a Just Giving account because that's a huge brand and people will use that in a peer-to-peer environment. But you can also take some central control of your peer-to-peer events and community environment as well. And this is one of those key platforms. It's an expectation that if you're a charity, if I'm somebody who likes to do things for charity, if I want that t-shirt, if I want to do park run with your branded t-shirt on, that's the product that is there for them. Then you got an email platform. Um, you know, people giving you a donation is good. You want to thank them. You want to tell them what their donation has done, why their donation is impactful, and you want to ask them for money again. One of the key strategies for engaging supporters is to get somebody to engage in repeat behavior. A gift once means somebody's given you money once and they may then forget about you. A second gift means you will have significantly higher lifetime value. That is habitual behavior, it's repeat behavior. It means you have an opportunity to build high value relationships over a long period of time. Um, Email platforms are vital for this. You can do loads more with email platforms, but on a very simple level, if somebody gives you money once, you want to tell them what they've done, why it's impactful. You want to ask them for money again, and you potentially want them to be a monthly supporter that gives to you for a long, long period of time. And then lastly, a CRM. I see in the comments there some people asking what a CRM is, and Beverly's very kindly said it's a customer relationship management system. That is a platform that allows you to have all of your donor information in the one place. You will hear the term single version of the truth a lot, and the CRM should be the hierarchy of all data that you have. So if you go into a CRM, you'll be able to see a single donor record. You'll be able to see the donor's information. You'll be able to see a list of all the donations they've previously made. You may also be able to layer in petition asks they've done or volunteering programs they've done. And if you're an organization where the donor base and the service user base is in the same, you may also use that CRM to map interactions between donations and service users themselves as well. You will see a lot of CRMs that are specifically focused for fundraising. So Raiser's Edge by Blackboard is a very, very popular one. I would say in terms of my customer base in the UK, a third of people use Raiser's Edge, a third of people use Salesforce, and a third of people use Microsoft Dynamics. But there are a bunch of smaller ones out there as well. So Donify and Access CRM are all kind of smaller ones as well. A CRM needs to be something that satisfies your capacity. So if you're a small organization and you need very, very simple tools, you just want to track what donors have done, then going into like a Microsoft Dynamics build that takes you 3 years is probably not the most optimal way of doing things. But if you're a behemoth organization that needs to do something like that, then the Salesforces and the Dynamics of this world are going to be really important. But I would say that the key thing with CRM is that it suits what you're trying to do, and understanding your size and your capacity is really, really important. key thing you want with a CRM is just this single understanding of what a donor's done, primarily because it will let you make good decisions about what to do next. So you will have things built into CRMs called RFM modeling. This is recency, frequency, and monetary modeling. So it's meant to give you an idea of who and when you should next ask for a donation, and this can massively improve the level of repeat giving and relationship building you have with your supporters. So all four of these things are really important, but they are in order. If you're starting out, go get a donation platform first so people can give you money, then go let people raise funds for you, then communicate with them, and then go for the CRM because it's going to be the more complex one and it's going to take you the most time. The rest are a lot easier to onboard and get live and much easier to engage with and much more visible to your supporters as well. In terms of how you find a product that suits you, this is basically a cheat sheet of questions to ask. So we can go into, 3-year degrees about procurement and stuff, but ultimately, if you're looking to make very quick decisions, there's a couple of questions to ask there that will just give you a bit of a risk check. So first of all, can you build it for me? The worst thing in the world is going and getting an online product and having somebody throw a manual and an FAQ at you and say, go figure it out for yourself. If there's an organization that you're engaging with, are they going to support you to make sure that you're following best practices and creating platforms that work well for you? The second question is, can I build it for me? As good as it is to have support from a company to build something, you also want to make sure you have access yourself, because if you don't have access yourself, then what's happening is called gatekeeping. And what happens with gatekeeping is if you can't make edits yourself, companies will charge you to do it on your behalf, and that means your budget will spiral out of control. So you want to be able to have support, but you also want to be able to access things yourself so you can make simple changes without, delay or without cost. Um, the most important question in any level of software is this first party? So first party means, are you the owner of the platform? This means the relationship with your donor is one-to-one. So the donor is giving directly to you. They're not giving to a third party platform who's then forwarding the money to you. So some of the tricks there is my organization's name, the one that appears on the bank statement when somebody makes a payment. Am I the data controller from a Data Protection Act and a GDPR perspective? Is this data mine? Am I the person who has sole decision-making authority over what happens with this data? And then really importantly, if I leave, can my donors come with me? And I can't stress how important this is. You should always be prepared when you have a product to review other products available and move to the one that most suits you, that's most cost efficient, that makes you the most money. If you leave, can donors from one platform come to the other, or are they being gate kept and are they being ring fenced? Some of you will remember, I believe in 2020, a major giving platform, ostensibly an events platform, but also did regular giving, pulled out of the market with 3 months' notice, and closed down. That was a third-party platform, and a lot of small organizations, particularly, held all of their regular giving information, all of their regular giving pledges within that platform. When that organization closed down, they didn't have the facility to transfer those pledges to another platform, and they didn't even own the data. So they couldn't even email people saying, by the by, this platform is closing down. Would you like to continue your regular gift? Please sign up here. People lost entire regular giving programs because they put too much of their activity in a third party platform. First party platforms are paramount, and they're no longer expensive, they're no longer difficult, they're much more easy to engage with. I said, can I make edits for free? That's super important. Do I have access? Can I log into a back office? All of these things are really important for understanding if the platform you're procuring gives you the control, safety, and risk management to mean that your donors are safe, they're yours. And if you need, if a company closes, or if you just, choose to move to another company, that you keep your donors, you keep your revenue, and you don't undergo any losses. And that's super, super important. I would recommend everybody looks at this for every product they build. And then how much should something cost you? Unfortunately, there's no real standardized costs for most of the online giving world, but some of the fees that could be charged are listed here. So you can charge one-off setup fees for people that are building platforms for you. There can be ongoing, like, monthly license fees for maintenance of software. So you'll see people saying X amount per month. Payment processing fee is unfortunately the most unavoidable thing in the world. That's Visa and MasterCard getting their money, and they will always insist on getting their money. That's normally identifiable because it's a flat fee plus a percentage. So what you have there is a payment gateway fee and a payment acquirer fee. So if you have a Stripe account or a PayPal account, you'll probably pay 20p plus 1.2% as a payment processing fee on every donation you take. And that's very, very difficult to avoid, unfortunately, unless you happen to be somebody who went to university with the people that own Stripe and get a sweetheart deal from them. That does happen. But unfortunately, it's not an option that's open to everybody. You also have things like transaction fees. So that's with platforms that process transactions. They may not charge you any upfront fee. They may charge you a percentage of the money you raise. And you may also have things like tipping and voluntary contribution. If anybody here has done the Big Give, you'll be familiar with the tipping and voluntary contribution model. Similarly, if you have a Just Giving account, they also use that model as well. It's a really interesting model to allow the supporter to offer a voluntary contribution which covers the cost, and the platform itself takes the risk. And ultimately, it means the charity doesn't have to pay anything, which is really, really useful because it cuts your budget down, it makes things easier to launch. And if your donors are broadly happy with it, it means you're empowering them to choose, what value the software is itself. The most important thing when looking at this is to do the maths. Figure out how much in a ballpark you expect to make over the course of a year and work out how much all of these fees and whatever combination of them works out as together. I've seen countless people enter into these things, see a very, very simple kind of, oh, it costs X% and think brilliant. And then all of a sudden end up with a huge bill at the end of the year. Do the maths, work it out at the start and figure it out from there, and you should be okay. So this is, from a procurement perspective, this is going to be really, really important. The last bit to go through as well is supporter experience. Supporter experience is key because ultimately, if people don't like the journey they go through, they'll just drop off and won't complete a donation. It's not because they don't like you as an organization. It's not because they're not passionate about the work you do. It's just from a functional perspective. If something's annoying, you're less likely to continue to do it. If something creates doubt, you're less likely to continue to do it. And one of the problems charities face is that we're marking our own homework a lot. So the analogy I would make is that when you walk into your hallway, when you come home from the shopping, you know where your light switch is, you turn your light on. If you're a stranger to a house and you've never been there before, you don't walk in and turn the light on, you walk in and look for the light. And there's a massive difference there in terms of how quickly, how intuitively you can engage with something. And websites are no different. So there's 4 quick cheat things that I want to do for supporter experience. The first one is the user asking themselves, am I in the right place? That's super important. First thing somebody does when they go into a shop, when they go into a website, when they do anything, is just double check in their mind that they're in the right place. In this case, Book Trust are doing a lot. They're making their logo very visible. They're using imagery that they also use on social media, so people are getting a similar experience, and they're using a color scheme that matches all of their other content. So, aside from just that logo that I've circled in red, the rest of that site is reassuring people and building trust that you are indeed in the right place. You wanted to give to the Book Trust, you're in the right place to give to the Book Trust, on you go. The biggest point of drop off on online donation forms is that immediate, I get there and I leave immediately. And this level of trust building is super important to limit the amount of people that leave immediately and boost the amount of people that will go on to make a donation. The next question somebody's going to ask themselves is, where do I start? So what must I do first? So you can see with Barrett's Hospital here, they have a very obvious and an easy bit that says you must choose whether you want to give monthly or one-off, and then you can choose your amount, and then you can mention why somebody's donating. Once somebody starts, it's a natural human instinct to want to complete. And again, like I said, the biggest drop off is people who come to a site, don't do anything, and leave. One of the biggest problems here is when it's not immediately obvious what I must do to continue with my donation, then I will get frustrated and leave. And over a big enough sample size, that starts to become a lot of money that's being left on the table and not given. So making sure when somebody lands on a page, they can immediately engage with something that's not too committal. I mean, I wouldn't put the credit card number first because that seems like a big ask. I would put things that are not, choose the frequency of donation, choose your amount. It's kind of, you're not committed to anything. It's nice and easy. All you want is people to get into this nice little behavior of completing the website and getting to the end point of their donation. If this information is below the fold, so if somebody has to scroll down to see it, you're going to lose a ton of donors. If there's lots of other buttons, if there's like a chat bot that says, what did you think about our website? If there's buttons about other content on the site, you're going to distract people and you're going to lose a ton of donors. Having a keen focus on where somebody gets started is going to be massively impactful for donations. And then what have I done wrong? I challenge everybody here to go and spend a day navigating the internet and checking when they make mistakes on various different forms and seeing how easy it is to identify what's gone wrong. So here, somebody's put in an email address, but they've not put in .com or whatever at the end. And immediately they've given them a big red message saying, please enter a valid email. That's very clearly telling them what they need to rectify to continue. If it's not clear what somebody's done wrong, then somebody will say, okay, I couldn't make a donation because I couldn't figure out what I had to correct. And that person will leave and likely not come back because they will remember that their user experience was difficult and they'll go find somebody else to give their money to. And that's absolutely vital to make sure. This is super successful because it's inline, it's clear, it's very obvious, it's got a color scheme, it's accessible, and it solves things really easily. When you're navigating not just charities, but when you go on various different e-commerce sites and things like that, have a look at how errors are displayed and have a think about how likely you are to be able to easily fix those errors. And the last thing there is I've listed it as do you take Apple Pay? And this is not just Apple Pay. This is do you take the payment method that I want to pay with? You see it with things like American Express as well. Not everybody takes American Express because it's a little bit more expensive. But ultimately, if somebody wants to pay with American Express and doesn't have another card with them, you kind of got to take it. With Apple Pay, it's the biggest growth method in the charity sector. Our benchmark report suggested that in the last year, the amount of people paying with Apple Pay had grown by 400%. There are still organizations out there that don't accept Apple Pay. It's just a surefire way to lose money. If you're talking about adopting a strategy that allows you to speak to new audiences, as we spoke about earlier, those new audiences will be much more casual. They won't be people who dedicate half an hour at their home computer to go and research you. There'll be people who might engage with your social media and click on a link on Instagram, and they may come to your website on their mobile, and they may be out in public, and they may, sitting at a cafe or something like that. They're not going to whip out their credit card and start typing in their numbers, but if you give them a very easy button to press so they can select their amount, press the Apple Pay button, make the donation, great. You've secured the donation, you've secured their information, you have a supporter. If you don't give them that option, you're risking somebody saying, well, I don't want to pull my credit card out right now, so I'll come back later. And as soon as somebody says you'll come back later, you can start counting the ratio and percentage of people that just forget and just never come back. And those are lost donors, and that's lost revenue forever. So making sure that you're suiting your donor, you're giving them the experience that they want is going to boost revenues. Nothing to do with whether they like your cause. They've already made that decision long ago. They love what you do. They think it's really powerful. This is just about, if you're running a charity shop, making sure the door is open and you've put some WD-40 in the hinges of the door so it runs nice and smoothly. That's all you're doing here. But the level of money it means to you as an organization is absolutely paramount. And I would urge everybody to review these kind of user experience things. In terms of, I'm going to finish up now, if I may. Um, this isn't a type of talk where we just turn around and say, do this, see you later. At iRaiser, we're really committed to being accessible to small organizations instead, rather than just large organizations that work on a multinational basis. And when we partner with organizations like this, and when Beverly gives people like Beverly, but Beverly particularly gives us time to put these things out, we also want to offer people something in return. As part of these talks, for participants in this talk, we're happy to offer a free version of our platform. So this is a donation page software that will allow you to have a optimized, high quality donation ask on your website where you can take payment and you can give supporters a really good creative experience that will have a user experience that will allow you to boost revenue. So feel free to screenshot this or whatever. This will be sent out to you in the slides later as well. You can come in, request a demo. One of our team, if you mention that you've been on this call, one of our team will make sure that you're given a free to access offer, and you can go ahead and use iRaiser to hopefully give your supporters a really good experience in terms of their donation journey, but more importantly, to let you make more money and hit the goals you want to do and spend less time worrying about the technical side and more time worrying about telling those brilliant stories about all the work that you do. Like I said, please do follow that request demo link, or alternatively, if you prefer, you can just come directly into me, mention that you've been on this call, call, and I will put you in touch with one of the team who can build you a platform as well. And we would absolutely love to support everybody we can in this. It's so important to us that we prove ourselves by working with organizations of all sizes, even if they're not commercially lucrative, to prove that good fundraising experiences, good website user experience does better and raises more money. At the moment, my claim is that if you use good experience, if you improve the experience on your website, your revenue will go up by 20% immediately. And that's something that we are starting to see data of charities of all sizes proving that. And that's something that's really important. I appreciate we're bang on 11. I am totally fine to deal with questions if people have to. I will put the link in here.
Thank you, Owen.
There's a demo button in the top corner. I appreciate there's been some questions in the chat already relating to CRM that I've mentioned and touched upon, and that Beverly has answered as well very kindly. In terms of any other questions, if anybody wants to speak.
Janice has a question. We're implementing a new database called Beacon. Would your platform work with that, as Janice is asking?
Yeah, so in terms of, and this is something that is slightly technical, but in terms of giving platforms, you want them to be able to integrate with various different APIs and webhooks. So that is effectively sending data from one platform to another and doing it in accordance with automated rules. So that's super important. Basically, most database platforms are very robust to allow you to send data automatically to them. Some organizations, for whatever reason, need to manually handle data because their systems aren't necessarily robust enough for that. But an enterprise level software solution should have an export tool that can send data directly to another database. For us, we have full flexibility with all methods and protocols and file types, and you can customize files exactly. So you want a certain piece of information within Beacon, you give us a sample file from Beacon, we copy that and then create an export so every donation pings in. As well as just getting data into a database, you also want to be able to use data for your team on a kind of a more lo-fi version as well. So I would say, one of the key things that we would use an export tool for is notifying of certain gifts that we think require direct stewardship. So if somebody gives over a certain amount of money, you might have a major donors fundraiser who wants to speak to that person directly. You might not want them to have to go through the normal stewardship journey. You want a personalized journey. Export and notification tools can also be used to get that out to them as well. So let's say you have an email, email goes saying somebody's just given over £3,000, please give them an immediate thank you and custom stewardship journey. That's something you should be using data platforms to do as well, because it will save time and it will mean better support experiences. But from a data integration platform, yeah, enterprise level products integrate very easily with other ones, and it's very important for these things to talk to each other. You don't want somebody to just dump one Excel spreadsheet at you once a month and make you go through and edit it all. That's time consuming and suboptimal. But it's not, this, I would say as well, this isn't like a unique selling point for us. Every enterprise level platform does this and should be able to integrate with your databases.
Right. Are there any other questions for Owen? Okay, because people are leaving, I just want to say thank you very much, Owen, for your presentation. Very informative, and I hope it didn't put you under too much pressure. I know you had to rush through it quite a bit. I also want to say, please take up the offer that Owen has offered to partner organisations. I will be emailing out those slides to everybody who registered for the workshop today, and once again my apologies for the issue. So not only will be on the website, on the new website, which I'll put in the chat on the funding page, but I will email this presentation out to everybody so you can follow that through if you want to take up the partnership offer. And the pace of technology, we know, is moving so fast. The more we can embrace technology for efficiency improvements and to augment our fundraising, the better. And once again, thank you all so much for bearing with us at the beginning. And if Owen, you just stay on the line, and thank you to everybody else, and you will receive that presentation today. Thank you.
Thanks all.
Dr. Elaine's still there. No? Elaine, are you frozen or are you there still? Oh, she's gone. Right. Okay. Oh, I'm so sorry about that. I will be holding an investigation as to what actually happened. So this, so I don't know what, it seems to be two problems. One, it seemed to be a problem with, sometimes people forget they have to log um, into Eventbrite, that's first, but even those people had logged in couldn't get in. So I don't know what actually happened today, to be honest. So you had half the participants there today. However, everybody will receive that presentation that was put up. So I can only apologise that happened. I did find it personally very stressful, and thank you so much for. I know you probably had to rush through it quicker than what was ideal, but I don't think any of the points were lost.
No, I think all good. Do you want me to stop the recording? But
Oh gosh. Yes, thank you.
I think you have to.
Hang on.